Hello and welcome to another edition of GC Live Fowl Balls. The interns have the keys once again, as I am joined by my co-host Jack Veltri. Jack, what's up, big dog? How are you?
What's going on, brother? How we doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Finally recovering from the Masters a little bit. Sinuses are getting a little better. Dealing with the sinus infection last week, but we're healthy finally. The antibiotics have done their thing, and now returning back to full health once again. So excited to talk about some baseball. Big weekend coming up. We'll get to that against Florida. I mean, I love it when Florida comes to Founders Park. It's always a good time. And then obviously recap the weekend. And I mean, first we should probably get to an ad before we do that.
Probably.
Yeah, probably. Got to pay the bills.
Yeah.
So before we start, we want to talk about our good friend, Clint Hammond at the Movement Mortgage Network. As you can see, his number is on screen right now. Clint Hammond is one of the best to ever do it. He's our guy, our mortgage guy here at Gamecock Central. He's helped out Wes Mitchell, also my co-host on the postgame show, Perry Orth. With his mortgage, you can give him a call for all of your mortgage needs. His phone number is listed on screen, 803-576-4450. Once again, that number is 803-576-4450. Give him a call for all of your mortgage needs, and he is the presenting sponsor for tonight's show. We love Clint Hammond bringing us shows you guys all know and love. So, Jack, getting into the weekend, not fun if you're the Gamecocks. I mean, fun on Thursday night, but it was Friday night. Yeah. Again, I was sick. It's all a blur. I was sick, but yeah. I mean, big win on Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday it just wasn't there for you. Jack, give me your initial thoughts on the weekend.
It wasn't. It started well, but then it got really bad. That's the kind of the best way to put it. That first game, South Carolina was riding high. They just obliterated Vanderbilt in every way possible. Yeah, they didn't play the cleanest of games. They struggled in the field a little bit, but it really didn't come back to hurt them too much. And then it did eventually throughout the rest of the weekend. Errors were definitely costly this weekend. We'll definitely get into that as we progress throughout the show. But yeah, it wasn't the best weekend. Vanderbilt definitely just played a lot better, took advantage of South Carolina's mistakes, and it ultimately made the difference in the end. But overall, I mean, you didn't get swept. That's the big thing. Mm-hmm. You lost 2 out of 3, which, sorry, but I was right. So it's just too bad, I guess. But
disappointing, Dave. Yeah, I was going to bring that up. We were right on the predictions. Sorry, 2 out of 3, unfortunately, Dave. But yeah, no. So I mean, Jack, you were right with the predictions. After game 1, I mean, Jack, I had a meme pulled up for you. I was ready to go. Are you sure about that kind of thing? But unfortunately, the offense just wasn't necessarily there, and I don't necessarily blame it on the offense. The 2 losses. Obviously, it was the pitching and defense. The offense obviously had a big outpouring. On Friday night, and obviously it's what you like to see, and almost 10-run ruling Vanderbilt. That's pretty good, and especially the home runs were there too. It's what you love to see when you're leading the country in home runs. What does come back to bite you though is having to rely on the long ball as your only source of, I guess, income, your only source of runs. It does get a little dicey, and I think that's what we saw on Saturday and Sundays when you're not hitting the long ball early and often. You got to generate runs somehow, and we've seen this team do it without the home runs and be able to produce runs organically and without the big moonshot. Excuse me, without the big moonshot, and so it just didn't show up on Saturday and Sunday against Vandy, and strikeouts were kind of a big concern. This team has always really struggled with strikeouts, and it's kind of coming back. It was kind of an earlier in the year thing. We thought, I mean, personally, I thought that they had kind of left it in the dust. But once again, strikeouts are coming back to bite this team. And I don't know. I mean, they've been striking out a little bit more, or they struck out a little bit more against Vandy. It'll be interesting to see against Florida because Florida's pitching's iffy, but I mean we'll get to that. But I mean, yeah, offensively just relying on the home runs. Still leading D1 though, with 86, still one ahead of Florida Gulf Coast. Dunk U, oddly enough, is good at baseball. But yeah, still leading all of D1, which shouldn't surprise anybody. They were ready to go. I mean, they hit a home run in every game this weekend, which I didn't think was going to be the case until obviously they went deep on Sunday. But yeah, Jack, kind of give me your thoughts on the offense.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too worried. I know in the past I've been kind of critical about how this team strikes out and they just don't hit great with runners in scoring position and all that. But, I think we knew at some point that South Carolina was bound for a bad series. Like, I mean, I don't want to hear any fans saying that, oh, South Carolina was destined to go undefeated and not lose a series in SEC play. I hate to tell you, but you're crazy if you thought that was going to be the case. Honestly, it started last week with LSU, and then you get Vanderbilt, and then you get Florida, and then you get a break with Auburn, who's not as good as those teams, and it's right back to playing Arkansas and Kentucky and then Tennessee. So it's a gauntlet. It's going to be tough. Your offense is not going to be perfect all the time. You're going to have strikeouts. You're going to go through slumps. It's bound to happen. It's baseball. But how you respond, I think, is the key. I know this team's going to be hitting home runs, but I definitely do think they need to be putting the ball in play more, continuing to work walks, work the count, get through the pitching staff with Florida, and then eventually other teams down the road. But yeah, that's kind of my takeaways from it. I don't think it's as bad as it looks. Obviously, they got out to early leads with home runs, and the pitching staff just couldn't handle it. And I mean, it wasn't like they had big leads or anything outside of Friday, but it's definitely tough when your team strikes out a lot and isn't getting the home runs consistently. So that's probably my biggest takeaway from it is it's not the end of the world, this series, but it's definitely a reality check, I think. It was bound to happen at some point. Probably good to get out of the way on the road against arguably, I think Vanderbilt's probably the best team in the SEC right now. It's probably good for South Carolina to have something like this to just bring them back down to earth a little bit while everything in their sight and path is still attainable.
Yeah, I agree. And you talk about on the road, I think, it was going to be tough to win one. I mean, Vandy has one of the best environments in college baseball, even though that stadium's a little whack with all the turf. I remember talking to people on Twitter about that, all the turf, no room in foul ground. And I mean, we saw, the Vanderbilt player drop the ball in the bullpen. That indisputable video evidence I thought was a little questionable. And obviously I'm not going to sit here and rip the umps and rip the guys in Birmingham, but obviously they missed one there. And we talk about, a bunch of different things with the officiating, if you will, and all, the leaning in on the plunks and stuff like that. And I mean, that was pretty close to the nose. I got, half of those right, if you will. But again, I'm not going to sit here and play armchair official or armchair umpire, but it's tough environment on the road. Obviously I watched a little bit of this game, the games with the sound off due to the Vandy Whistler. So I watched a little bit of the games with the Vandy Whistler, obviously is part of the whole environment, right? I mean, legend amongst college baseball. I watched the games with the sound off because eventually I got annoyed with it, but it did progress. It got a little bit better as the weekend went along. But again, tough environment on the road. And Jack, I agree completely. It's good to get it out of the way, good to have your lumps and, take your first series loss. And I mean, again, there's no reason to panic because, they're right in the exact same spot what they were when they entered the weekend, with the rankings and stuff like that. And again, if you're losing your first series of the year, and again, we don't know what was going to happen against LSU, but if you're going to lose the first series of the year against Vanderbilt, that's pretty good. And last week we talked about the gauntlet that is the SEC and how ridiculously hard it is and how well they're doing so far. I think, losing your first series to Vandy is a good start. And obviously the offensive outpouring that you had on Friday night shows that you can stand and bang. And we'll talk about how, the defense left left a lot out there. We'll get to that, but I mean, offensively, you showed on Friday night that your offense is good enough to play with anybody, and they also did that against LSU the weekend prior. So I mean, I don't think it's the offense is the reason why they're losing games, and I mean, we'll get into the pitching and defense, but offensively, there was plenty good to be taken from this series.
Yeah, no, definitely. This was Friday was arguably the biggest surprise I think of the year. I honestly wasn't expecting a blowout of sorts, especially against that pitching staff. But yeah, South Carolina's offense, I really did think after Friday it would have clicked the rest of the weekend. And it did for a little bit. They did score 5 runs on Saturday. And then they got 4 yesterday. Am I mistaken on that? But regardless, they got 4 on Sunday. But regardless, I did think the offense looked fine for the most part. Obviously, like we said, they struck out a lot, and that is par for the course. The umpiring, quite frankly, stunk. But what else is new? I'm a proponent of robo umps. Let's hear in the chat. What do y'all think? Spam one if you want to see a robo ump one day. I don't know when something's got to change because it's just not it's not even it's just ridiculous. Like, they're human and all, and I get that. Yeah. And they deserve to be ripped when they need to, but no one's ever going to call them out unless it's the fans. But anyway, that's a whole other topic. Damn. Anyway.
Getting back to, and I think the robo umps, that whole thing, it's a different topic for a different day. Because again, I don't want to have this be the ump show because they weren't great, plain and simple, at Vanderbilt, and I don't necessarily think it was a home job because I think Vandy got screwed on a couple things too. Obviously, it was a little leaning towards South Carolina, but it was just bad across the board. Like, you can't really complain about a home job because, again, like I said, it was bad across the board. So, robo umps is definitely something to think about for sure. The game of the sport of the future, if you will.
Yeah, I do think they'll get back. I think South Carolina will get back on track, though. Yeah, this team, they've gotten this far with the way they've been hitting, especially in SEC play and stuff. And now they're going to be back at home in front of the home crowd, which I'm expecting to be pretty vibrant this weekend. I mean, the weather should be pretty nice this weekend, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Compared to 2 weeks ago where it's pouring rain all weekend. So I think we'll get all 3 games, and we'll see South Carolina kind of bounce back. I think this team is way too good not to bounce back. If they do lose this series, I do think it goes down in a fight, though. So that's the one thing I would expect, but don't be too worried, honestly. We got a long way to go in this season. We got 20. We got a month left of the season, pretty much. So let's just see how it goes. I mean, we'll be more if they're not hitting by mid-May, then maybe it's time to be concerned. But I think they'll be fine. So
I agree.
Nothing too big to worry about yet.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, again, I think Friday showed that you can do it against some of the best. I mean, I think if you were to start to worry, I'll get to this and then I'll ask you the hitter of the series. But I think if there were a point to have you worried about this offense, for me at least, it would be if they stopped hitting home runs. Like, I mean, if you go a couple games without a home run and just, the low numbers on the scoreboard, that's fine. I think. And so it's just like, low numbers on the scoreboard is fine, but if you stop hitting home runs, that's the area for me at least for concern. Jack, I don't know about you.
Yeah. I think the problem is that you can't just live and die by the home run ball. It will not.
Yes.
Maybe in regular season it'll work, but once you get to Hoover and regions and stuff, you can't do it. I think that's why 2 years ago, I just remember the pace at which that 2021 team was, playing really well. It didn't seem like they were going to lose. They were hitting home runs left and right. And then come Hoover and then the regional at home against Virginia and I think Old Dominion, they just were flat. They couldn't get the big hit when they needed to, and it ultimately bit them in the butt, and they got knocked out at home. So I kind of feel the same here, but I do feel a little more confident in Monty Lee's ability to get this team fired up and hitting well. I
Mhm.
think they're more than just a home run hitting team.
Yeah,
I think they can, you know, hit with runners in scoring position when needed. I think they can get on base, steal some bags, and do the little things right in order to pick up the wins. So I'm not, I'm a believer in their ability to, get it going again. So is Mark Kingston. He's said over and over again that they're going to be just fine and all this, and I believe him. So that is just my assessment of
yeah,
where this team is at. So yeah,
I
there's no
agree.
need to panic, as he said.
Absolutely. All right, Jack, who is your hitter of the series?
Yeah, yeah. So my hitter of the series would be my girlfriend's favorite player, Mr. Ethan Petrie. Surprise, surprise. Yeah, I'm not going to talk bad about him this week, nor will I really, go after my girlfriend again this week, who I know is watching. But yeah, Petrie had a great weekend. He went 3 for 10 with 2 bombs, 4 ribbies, and only struck out 3 times. But I think more importantly than any of that, sorry, my messages went off. I thought I turned that off. But anyway, yeah, Petrie's second homer of the weekend was the one that broke the tie with Justin Smoak's 2006 record of 17 homers in a season, which is pretty crazy because Petrie did it in, I think, 35 games, and Smoak did that in 66, which is insane to even think about. So, I mean, I think we were talking about it last week. I mean, Petrie at this point, he's at 18, right? So he could probably, real talk, if he doesn't really slow down that much, I think he will hit a slump at some point. But I think he's gonna get 30. I just I have a gut feeling. I think at lowest, I'd say 25. But yeah,
Yeah,
I think 30, I feel like is realistic. And then he's got a ton of other records coming up too that he could break. I think batting average might be one. Batting average, I think he's hitting like, let's see, he's hitting 438 this season, which is, I mean, that's crazy. I think a couple of weeks ago, Kingston was saying like, I don't know if he can keep it up, man. He's hitting like 440, but he'll come back down to earth at some point. Well, I hate to break it to you, Mark, but he hasn't.
yeah,
He's hitting 438 at this point in the year with like 20 something games to go. So I think he can keep that up. And then hits, I think, is another category he might be able to break the record in. I'm not sure what exactly it is, but
yeah,
yeah. So we'll see what happens. But he really, even when he didn't have the greatest weekend, he was still probably the South Carolina's main source of offense, besides a few other players that we'll talk about. But yeah, great weekend from him. I feel like we're always talking about him, and he does give credit where it's due. Ethan Petrie has been the star of this team as a freshman this season.
yeah. Absolutely. And rightfully so. I mean, his homers were all moonshots. And I'm going to go back with my player of the weekend to the Moose. Obviously, Cole Messina, the Moose, man. He was loose all over Nashville. If you were in Nashville, I'm sure you saw the Moose out on Broadway. I mean, he was all over making a ruckus in that city. Moose had himself a weekend, especially in, Friday's game. Two home runs. But I mean, for the weekend, 4 for 9, 3 runs, two bombs, and 4 RBIs, and both homers were freaking moonshots. I mean, it's ridiculous. The Moose is back. I'm glad he's back. So it's quite fun to watch when Moose is back, and whatnot, just because, again, he's an electric hitter, brings the energy. And when Moose is hitting well, the rest of the rest of the lineup hits well, and so I think he's a big energy guy, going off of that. But transitioning into the defense, so pitching and defense, obviously there was a lot left on the table. There was a lot, to be desired, for the pitching and defense. Jack, what are your initial thoughts on just pitching, defense, all of everything but hitting?
Defense, pitiful. Pitching, mediocre. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I don't think the defense was good this weekend. Like I said before, errors didn't really come back to hurt them Friday because You scored a gazillion runs, so no big deal there. Saturday and Sunday, with the games being a little more tightly contested, I think as we all expected, the errors did come back to bite them. Starting specifically with someone who I'm going to be a little critical of here. I love the way his offense has been this year, but man, his defense has just been really, really lackluster this season, in my opinion, and that is Michael Braswell. He just time and time again, I think, Joe, you were saying it to me over the weekend on a personal note, but this team really misses Will McGillis, don't they? I mean, not just his offense, but he's a fine defender too. And you just see Braswell in that inning on Saturday make a play. It was a hard hit ball, but I feel like in hindsight, he probably should have made that play. And then, I mean, I've had people talking to me saying, maybe put him back at short and put Wimmer back at second. But no, I wouldn't do that. You have Wimmer, who's a great defender at short, and it's just too bad that Braswell hasn't really adapted that well at second. I think he's really got to fix that. And another guy I think that needs to also, be better defensively is Talmadge LeCroy. I gave him a lot of credit last week as being a really fine hitter, but that ball that I forget what inning it was yesterday, but it was, he kind of went to his side a little bit instead of just getting in front of the ball. That's something you're taught at a young age is get in front of the ball, block it. And if it hits you in the chest, you got a chance to make a play. That's the thing. It's tough when you're going to your side because the ball just scooted right past him. And if they make that play, I think they get out of the inning there with only maybe one run given up. And then you have a chance to go back and tie it up because Petrie had that big RBI hit after. And then you had LeCroy, who homered. He homered in the ninth inning there. So and they had, I think, 4 hours on Saturday. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But
yeah, I think it was
4 hours on Saturday, 2 yesterday. So it's just 8 in total this weekend. It's not good, man. I mean, you got to fix that. And I don't want to hear about I know the turf is an issue. I know, but you can't be blaming all your problems on that. The ball is going to skip a little quicker, and that's just the way turf works. But like I said, you got to be able to get in front of these balls and don't play. I mean, I'm not going to say they played scared because it's not the way. I mean, they're here for a reason. I think if you're scared as a college baseball player in that infield, then you don't deserve to be playing. But I mean, these guys, they should be making these plays 9 times out of 10, I think. And mistakes are going to happen, but you're making 4 errors against a team like Vanderbilt. You're not going to win that game. I'm sorry. It's you're letting the door be wide open for them. And they've really got to clean these errors up ASAP. It's a quick turnaround. Luckily, you get a game tomorrow against a team that is not very good in Charleston Southern. Mm-hmm. So hopefully you can have a clean fielding game and get that confidence back up for this upcoming weekend with that lineup in Florida. But yeah, man, they really got to do better. And I think Braswell will stay in the lineup too. I know I'm continuing to talk here, but Braswell should probably be in that lineup just because of his hitting alone.
I agree.
But man, that defense, it's just he really hasn't been that impressive ever since McGillis went down and Braswell took over at third originally. Now he's at second. His defense just doesn't impress me this season. So that's kind of my take on it. I know it was a little harsh there, but I mean, it is
not
what it is.
Necessarily because it was bad. The defense was awful. I mean, you can't win ball games consistently in the SEC with that many errors. And I mean, LeCroy unfortunately was the victim to 5 of them. I think it's tough, and obviously it's baseball. Like sometimes you get the yips defensively, and that's fine. But like this, I would hope that this weekend is what it's built to, right? Because the errors have kind of been a thing all year, but it hasn't really built up, and there really hasn't been one series where it's been like a crap ton of errors and just what you saw and like what you saw at Vanderbilt. So I would hope that this would be the one weekend where it's like, all right, like we need to find a way out of this because it's been bad. Like all year it's been a thing, but like this weekend at Vanderbilt was the first weekend that we really saw it on the forefront, really saw it kind of impact games and lose them the game on Saturday and Sunday too in tough spots. The error with runners on base, they score two, like on an infield ground ball, like that's tough. I mean, you can't be having that. Jack, to your point, like the D1 college baseball players, you got to be better. And it's just you have to play better in the field. It's just how it goes. And I mean, the hitting it's fine, but you can't win games when your defense is that poor. And I like your take about Braswell. I think he's an elite fielder. You also need his bat in the lineup. And Braz, I say elite. He's getting better. Obviously Wimmer is way better than he is at short, and I think that's why Wimmer's at short, and just in all aspects, he's a better player at short. But Braswell's coming along, and so I think obviously you need him in the lineup. And we talked about it too, like off the show was McGillis. McGillis he's a stud. Number one, is a stud hitter, but two, he's stud. Fielder too. Like you really need his glove as well. So as soon as you can get Will McGillis back, I think that solves that issue. And obviously he played better than Braswell and deserves that spot when he comes back. And Braz is getting better. Braz is getting into it. We talked a little bit too off the record about like how, or not off the show, about like how good or how much better Braz was, with the bat in his hands this weekend. He homered. He did a lot better. So he's making his worth, known. But it's just like McGillis would just be a better fit when you got him, just because he's better glove. And that also, brings up a bunch of different options. You can put Braz back at third instead of Leekroy. And it just, again, the depth, when you have guys hurt, you need to rely on your depth and move guys around. But I think when McGillis is in, you put Braz at third and go from there, because Braz was doing pretty good at third. It was just his bat that was a problem. And so now that his bat's kind of come alive, I think it's starting to work out in his favor a little bit more. But, I mean, it is what it is. You need to take your lumps and move on from the errors and stuff like that. But Jack, I mean, what was your opinion on the pitching? Because I mean, the pitching was decent, right? But I think it's all marred by the errors this week.
Yeah. I think the errors definitely killed this pitching. It didn't look. I think it made it look worse than it really was. You see on Saturday they had one error, and that was the Braswell error, and then I think in the 6th, 7th, and 8th inning, they just had multiple errors. I mean, especially when it comes down to this bullpen. This bullpen's been fine, but you're costing them, making them look bad by not doing your job in the field. And I think that's a problem. Now, that said, that's not the question necessarily. We're talking about the pitching. I did think the pitching looked fine this weekend. I mean, sure, it wasn't great, but that's baseball. It happens. I think one thing we'll talk about is Will Sanders he's looking much better. Outside of one kind of rough inning, he looked fine this weekend and pitched 5 solid innings, I thought. So he gave South Carolina a chance to win in that Friday game, and they ultimately did. And then on Saturday, you get a nice outing from Mahoney. But then again, the errors just really, really cost South Carolina, and they didn't score enough after that, I don't think. You really have to be able to do both. You have to play well in the field, and then you also have to back up your pitcher with some solid hitting. And I mean, then Sunday you have Matthew Becker starting, who I honestly thought maybe other people won't feel this way, but I really did think his stuff was as good as it's been all year. Sure, he gave up 2 runs, but his strikeouts were high, season high in strikeouts, mind you. And his stuff just looked good. He was mowing through that Vanderbilt lineup the second time through. And it's unfortunate he couldn't go longer, because I think he probably would have reached double digits and more and given South Carolina a better chance than some of the bullpen arms, which I think were fine at the end of the day. Just, again, it comes down to errors. But, yeah, it wasn't the worst performance. I feel like you could have gotten more. Again, I do think this team needs Noah Hall back ASAP, because again, you're throwing guys that I don't think are used to throwing this much. And I'm not trying to make excuses for this pitching staff. I'm going to be straight up with y'all, but you're throwing Eli Jones in a lot more than I think he could probably take right now. He might say he's good to go whenever, but does his arm truly say that? Because he was just recovering from Tommy John surgery. I mean, that's a big thing. And some guys are able to work through it no problem, but others, it just takes time. And I think we're kind of at the point in the season. That's why guys go on innings limits in the pros and stuff, because you're just not sure about how long their arm's going to go. So that's one thing that concerns me with him. He's just looked a little rough lately. But yeah, I mean, this pitching staff wasn't great, but I think it gave you more than enough chances to win. And ultimately, just the errors and the struggles to get the big hits kind of cost them in those last 2 games.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. And I mean, the starters were decent. I mean, Will Sanders, he's still slowly improving. Like I mean, he got into a tough spot. That's why I pulled him on Friday. But from what we've seen, and the reason why he got benched, I think it's still a slow uphill battle with him. It's you really, really try to get him in his zone, and he's improving. That's all you want to see, right? Is that improvement that, and I think it's getting better towards the bigger half of the schedule. Obviously, he didn't pitch too bad against Vandy on Friday. Still, again, there are going to be critics out there, but he didn't do terrible in my eyes. I think it wasn't his best stuff, but it also wasn't his worst. I'm pulling up his stats right now. He went 5 innings, 4 runs with 4 earned, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts. It's not the best day in the office, but it's also not the worst. It's getting better.
You a chance to win. That's the big thing.
Exactly. He did, and the 5 innings pitched is also big. He's got the stamina. He can go the distance, and when this offense is standing and bang, is able to produce some runs and able to give him some support. I think that just helps, because we saw Will get better as his start went on. In my eyes, so I think it was huge for him to just be able to show what he's got, and again rally towards what he ended up doing. And so I think that was a big thing. Out of guys that stood out to me, I liked your take about Eli Jones. I don't know if his arm's quite ready for all the work, but they threw him a lot. I think he's good enough to be thrown that much. It's just he's still learning. He's still getting adapted to it and whatever. But out of my pitcher that stood out was Eli Jersenbeck. Jers Nasty, I like to call him. Jers Nasty was good on Friday. 2 innings pitched, 3 strikeouts, no hits, no runs, no balls either. It's quite good from the true freshman. And again, I think there were we were talking about whether or not he was going to start on Sunday, and obviously they pitched him on Friday, so they did not have I don't know. We said it was going to be a big cojones move, and I don't think he's ready for that spot yet, especially with the series on the line. You needed a big one, but Jers Nasty was good. Again, he's elite out of the bullpen. And I think, to your point about Eli Jones, is like, you don't want to overwork Eli Jones, or you don't want to overwork Jers Nasty. Eli Jersenbeck. Too many Elis, Jack. Too many Elis to keep track of. I know, but I think you don't want to overwork Jersenbeck just because of how talented he really is. So that's at least, who stood out to me. Like I said, I gave you my Mahoney spiel. I think he got better. So it is what it is. So,
yeah, I think I won't hit on him again too much, but I said Becker was probably my guy. I don't really think there was a true pitcher of the series. Veach was fine. Veach is a guy that, look, I know he, was it him or I think it was Cade that came in and gave up that tying run or something.
It was Cade.
No. It was Cade that gave up the tying run on the walk, and then Veach who had the pass ball, correct?
Yeah.
I think that was right. So yeah, Veach, look, he's not gonna be perfect, but he's been a guy that I would look, if I need a guy that needs to come in and do his thing and get me out of a jam, I'm probably going Veach right now. So he has been electric this year, but again, you have to have your expectations be somewhat realistic. I think at the end of the day, I know everyone in this chat is fans and all that, but we need to make sure that, these guys, they're not going to be the greatest in every single outing. You're going to get up home runs. Like Cade gave that home run last week, and now this week he walked in the tying run. That's going to happen. But again, Mark Kingston was saying it. I mean, he trusts Cade just about as much as anyone. And same with Veach. These guys are going to be critical down the stretch, and you're going to need them. So, yeah, there were a bunch of guys that did well. I thought Proctor pitched well. Nick Proctor, my guy, pitched well on Friday. I only won an inning. And then Wesley Sweat, you get him in there on Sunday, who hasn't really pitched much ever since going down with that injury last year. But he's been fine outside of giving up a homer there. But honestly, it's not really that bad. I just didn't think really anyone was that wowing this weekend. So, yeah, those are probably some of the guys that I would take away as being pretty good, but you want better, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And famously, Garnett, Veach he threw 2/3 of an inning, one hit, no runs, no earned. So, I don't know why they didn't use him more. I would have thought they were going to use him more. So it was interesting just how they managed the bullpen. Obviously, I think, the arms out of the bullpen, it wasn't the problem. The problem was the defense. But I think the arms out of the bullpen did not necessarily cost. There wasn't really anybody super glaring out of the bullpen that was like, oh my gosh, like pin the series on them. But I think it was just all kind of mediocre out of the bullpen. But yeah, I was also surprised why Veach did not play more. Yeah, it was on Saturday, FG. So yeah, that wraps up our Vandy talk. Before we get into Florida, Jack, let's talk about our other sponsor, Liberty Tax. As we all know, tax season is upon us. Tomorrow is tax day. So we have to talk about Liberty Tax. Tax ID is an uncertain feeling you get right before doing your taxes, but you don't have to go through it alone. The tax team at Liberty Tax in Irma, Lexington, and Columbia will walk you through the process, clear up any confusion, and guarantee you'll get the biggest possible refund or your money back. It's tax time, Jag. If you're in a hurry for your refund, call the tax team at Liberty Tax. Fast, accurate, and guaranteed. On the other hand, if you think you might be owing Uncle Sam, talk to the Liberty Tax team to make sure you're not paying more than you should owe. They'll find every possible deduction for you. Locally owned and operated, staffed by tax professionals from your neighborhood. They're open from 9 to 9 on weekdays, 9 to 5 on Saturdays with multiple service options. Start through Liberty Tax mobile app or through the desktop portal, make an appointment, or just walk in. Give a call to upload your tax documents, and when you come in, your return will be ready to review and sign. Once again, you can find their number on screen right now. It is 803-462-5576. Once again, their number is 803-462-5576. Give them a call for all of your tax needs. This tax season, as we get into the big weekend series with Florida, it's always fun when Florida comes to town. I feel like the chirps at Founders Park ramp up. It's always a good time. So it's always fun, like I said, when Florida comes to town. Jack, give me your initial thoughts on this series.
I'm excited for this series, man. It's been 2 years since Florida came to town, and I remember, quick story. I remember I was at that 14-inning walk-off with, I think it was Ice who, hit him, or
good friend.
Actually, no, it was, I think it was Burgess. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think it was.
It was a shot to right.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was like a 14-inning game. I remember just like, damn, man, when is this game going to end? I hadn't been at a game that long covering in my young journalism career. But anyway, I'm excited for this weekend, man. We got 2 top dogs in the SEC. It never ends in the SEC with competition. You're always getting the best. And I think Florida right now, they're rolling. They've just taken series after series, played well, taken advantage of mistakes just like Vanderbilt has. And we're gonna see, man. I do think there are some areas where South Carolina could take advantage of Florida and get wins. But at the same time, I feel like there's also the case for Florida. They could take advantage of South Carolina, and with these errors and stuff, if South Carolina plays another series like that, shoot, man, I don't know if it's going to be good. But, yeah, I'm excited for this weekend. Unfortunately, I won't be there. Going to be out of town in Huntington, West Virginia, supporting my brother as he plays with the Marshall Thundering Herd. But I know Colin's going to do a great job there, providing everyone with the top-notch coverage, and Joe with the home run tracker. So
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think it's going to be a really fun series. Like I said, it's going to be fun to be at Founders Park listening to all the creative chirps that everyone has for Florida. My favorite part about that series 2 years ago was, the Florida players walking out and doing the run your mouth kind of thing and just having them getting walked right out of Founders. It's kind of fun. And that's, some of my fonder memories in college is just, before I was in the media, being able to, heckle a little bit back in the day. But, it's going to be fun. The energy is going to be electric. I'll be there a couple days. I'm not sure which ones we're going to quite yet. I think I'll be there Thursday, maybe or maybe Saturday. I don't know. You'll have to find me on Thursday. I got a tea time for 3:30, so I'm going to be a little late. So you guys will have to find me afterwards. But yeah, it's going to be really, really, really fun, especially because Florida's pitching has not been the best in the world. It's in this team we've seen. Again, we talk about the offense, Jack, like how many home runs they hit and everything. It's going to be really, really fun to see if Florida's pitching is not up to standard. It's going to be, again, electric. And I think I've been looking at Florida stats. I don't have them up. Their team ERA right now is a 4.80, and that's for the whole team. So it's definitely juiced a little bit, but it's not bad now that I look at it. But it's also not great, and they've allowed. Let me find it.
They've given up 39 bombs this year.
39 bombs. Yeah. It's
a little alarming, I guess. And, opponents are batting .226 this season against them. But yeah, I think, and I'm sorry to kind of interrupt you here, Joe, or cut you off, but I think what is going to be the difference in the series is, can South Carolina hit this pitching? I think their starting pitching is not Vanderbilt. I don't think it's LSU. I don't think it's honestly one of the top pitching staffs in the SEC. I think South Carolina's got the better pitching staff and potentially the better offense, but I think this weekend you're really going to have to. I know I've said, you got to, work the count and make them work for every at bat. But man, if you get a good pitch, hit it this weekend. I mean, set the tone right away. I think I'm going to make a bold prediction right here, but I think Braylon Wimmer's kind of going to get this team going on was it Thursday?
Yeah.
Yeah, Thursday. I think he's going to probably hit a leadoff homer, or someone in the first inning will go to him or Petrie and take advantage of this Florida pitching. You got to get to them early. I don't think they're scary by any means. Neither is that bullpen. I think once you get through the starting pitching, that bullpen is not amazing. They're not bad, but they're definitely hittable. And yeah, if South Carolina's offense can get back on track to what we're used to, I think they'll be fine. So that's kind of the assessment of how this hitting could definitely take advantage of the pitching.
Yeah, I agree. Bold take from Famously Garnet, but I'm here for it. I mean, 6 bombs.
It's possible.
It is possible. 6 bombs on the weekend. That'd be a whole lot of fun, especially for those of us who are going. And I mean, 6 bombs isn't unreasonable either. Talking about this baseball team, like, it's really within reach. So, I mean, that's why I pulled this comment up from FG, is because it's definitely within reach. This team can homer and homer and homer and homer and homer again. It's quite fun to watch. So Jack, my question for you, how do you stop two-way star Jack Caglione?
Caglione. Yeah.
Caglione.
I saw it somewhere. The Italian Shohei Ohtani. If you don't know who Shohei is, man, just what are you even doing here? Yeah, he's been nearly unstoppable on the hitting side. He's a menace at the plate. He just hits homer after homer after homer, hits for a high average. Let's just check it out real quick. So, yeah, this season I think he's at 21 homers. He leads the Gators in home runs, RBIs. I mean, he's hitting 374. 865 slugging and a 426 on base percentage. That's you don't know. That's pretty daggone good. And I don't know, man. Just he's so good at the plate. But where I do think you can beat him, kind of, well, I would have said like Shohei maybe his first year in the MLB because I didn't think he was that good of a pitcher back then. But I mean, I don't think Caglianone's pitching is all that impressive. Sure, he throws 97, 98. Okay, whatever. Most guys do. But I do think you got to be able to. I mean, he's pitching, I think, to like a 4.74 ERA. That's, I mean, I'm no genius here, but I don't think that's that good. I mean, I think he's hittable, just like everyone else on that staff. So I think if you limit him at the plate, and then he'll pitch on Sunday probably, which will pretty much, I think, determine the series at that point. And you're throwing, well, let's assume Noah Hall's back. So you get Mahoney versus Caglione on Sunday. I think Mahoney wins that battle. And then you got to assume he's hitting at the plate too. I just think maybe Caglione will hit 1 or 2 homers this weekend, but man, if you can strike him out a bit and not let him get in those situations, shoot, intentionally walk him if you need to. But
Yeah.
I think you got to stop him first and then worry about everyone else later. So.
Yeah. Caglione's a stud. I like the Italian Shohei Ohtani. He's kind of funny. The Italian Stallion. I mean, the nicknames go crazy. And it's quite fun, watching a guy like that. And I mean, he had a big home run this weekend. We'll pull that up in a bit because my monitor is not working currently. But
I mean, it's fun.
Yeah, exactly.
It's cool.
I mean, because earlier in the game, I'm sure, I don't know if anyone saw this. I know the people in the comments, my Twitter friends have definitely know exactly what I'm talking about. But a Florida pitcher got thrown out earlier in the game this weekend. And so Caglione, it was a grand slam, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a long homer to right against Georgia. And then as he's rounding the bases, he just, he hits third, runs home normal trot. And then when he touches home, you don't see any emotion on his face. He's not, all jacked up and stuff. He's not celebrating with his team. He's just, he's just standing there like he's waddling around like a penguin or something. Yeah. And that's kind of a troll to the umpiring, which again, like we said before, it's just not that good. So, I mean, it was funny, and I think you need guys like that in baseball. But I think this weekend for South Carolina, you gotta make sure he's not celebrating at all. So.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I agree. And it's funny too, because there's the other end of the spectrum. Famously, Garnett just commented what the LSU batter did to the Kentucky pitcher. Yeah. I'm not going to pull that up. That was, but
that was, I saw that.
That was nuts.
He was, dude. I mean,
that was nuts. Baseball, I don't know what the poor pitcher did to him. I don't know. I wasn't watching that series.
Some guys they're just built different. And I think they need that energy to be able to play at a superior level. So, I mean, I get it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, we talked about Caglione's two-way ability. This Florida pitching staff obviously has a lot to be desired. But I guess talking about a matchup in pitching-wise, who do you think has the edge? Because, I mean, South Carolina staff without Noah Hall has not been great.
Yeah, it's tough because I think Florida could have the better pitching staff, but at the same time, maybe South Carolina. I think it's just a numbers game. It depends on who's pitching when. And again, I think South Carolina has the better bullpen. I'll give South Carolina credit where it's due. They, outside of just a few rough appearances lately, I do think they had the better bullpen at the end of the day. But the pitching staff, I mean, it can be even. I mean, did we all really expect Will Sanders to kind of not pitch like a potential first-round draft pick at this point in the season? I certainly didn't. I mean, you could say the struggles kind of date back to he didn't pitch in the fall. But I think if you're going to be that good of a guy and you feel like you're ready, you should be pitching well. But I get it. It happens. It's tough pitching in the SEC too. But I think you need a good start from Will. And then I think Mahoney will give you a good outing. But then it really just comes down to whether or not they get Noah Hall back. I mean, he might be dead. Who knows? I feel like we haven't seen him at all. But now, all jokes aside, I don't think he'll pitch this weekend realistically. So I think that begs the question: who do you pitch on Sunday then? And I'm not going to say Jerzenbeck. I think you go back with Matthew Becker. I think he was really solid on Sunday, he showed us last year how good he could be in a starting role. If y'all don't remember, he had those awesome outings against Tennessee and Texas. He was a young freshman from Chapin pitching against the best teams in the country, number 1 and 2 probably at that point in the season. And he did the work. He shoved and pitched really well. So I think that's who would probably start on Sunday, but
Mhm.
we will see. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on who would pitch Sunday if Noah Hall can't go. But I think South Carolina will probably edge Florida.
Yeah,
And
I think so.
next
And pitching wise, even without Noah Hall, I think you still have an edge because again, this Florida staff has given up quite a lot of runs this season. I'm looking at it right now. They've given up 171 earned runs, which again isn't great, but also not bad. They've kind of tuned it up a little bit going into SEC play, which is a little bit of concern. But again, the way South Carolina's bats have been going recently, it's quite fun to watch. I think it's going to be interesting. But again, pitching wise, I think it's a pretty similar pitching matchup without Noah Hall. It's close. I am going to give the edge to South Carolina because I think Will Sanders, like I talked about at the top of the hour, I think he's slowly progressing more and more and more, getting to be like better in that. I don't know. Again, the first round draft pick, not there quite yet, but he's getting there.
So.
And that's the biggest thing. And the benching, I mean, I'm sure the comments has opinions on if the benching helped or not. I would love to see him, but it's quite interesting to see how he's responded from that. And so it's quite, again, like I said, quite interesting. I'm using it here to stall, but it's going to be really, really fun series, pitching wise and obviously hitting wise for South Carolina. So Jack, I'm going to ask you this: how much does a home field advantage play into the series? Like, what does it do for South Carolina?
I think it's going to make a world of difference, man. I just think being at home in the SEC is the ultimate difference in just any series. Doesn't matter who you're playing. I think you could be the worst team in the SEC and be playing like LSU right now, but if you're at home, I think you at least win a game or two and maybe make it close throughout the series. But yeah, I think the home field advantage definitely will have an impact on it. I think the crowd's going to be ready to roll, ready to go, have all their cheers and all that stuff, get on top of the Florida team as a whole. And I think the home runs will be there. And I think the crowds are really going to feed off of that. And shoot, I mean, it's like LSU or, with, I think it was Clemson too. It's like, no, I think Les Miles had said it for Clemson or LSU. You come here, it's where dreams, you come to Baton Rouge, it's where dreams come to die. Well, I think when you come to Columbia at Founders Park, you're going to be intimidated. You're going to have to go through hell and back to come out of there with, I think, at least just a win. I mean, look at LSU. They were beat up when South Carolina played against them, and they barely got out of there with a win by the skin of their teeth. So, yeah, I mean, I just think the home field advantage will make a difference in the end, and I think ultimately probably could determine the series. So,
yeah, I mean, I agree completely. I think it's all that and more, and it's some home cooking. This is going to be a big homestand for South Carolina. Starting with Charleston Southern. It'll be good to get back home. I know the road trip was short, but it's going to be nice. And again, I talked about it at the top of this segment. Founders Park loves Florida coming to town, and I love that energy because Florida players traditionally have gotten rattled really, really, really easily. So I don't know about this Florida team. I mean, the Caglione stuff has been fun to watch. So I think it's going to be really interesting. They're definitely going to be getting an earful all weekend long because South Carolina baseball fans hate Florida. And it's one of my favorite things to watch. It's why I'll be there twice, maybe even 3 times this weekend if I'm bored. But we will see. It's going to be quite interesting. But yeah, I think it plays into home field advantage for sure. And I think not only because of the chirping, but just being back on home field, knowing you've got a home stand coming up. It's gonna be again, that home cooking. You can't really beat it. Sleeping in your own bed, no hotels, not you don't have to deal with any of that stuff. So it's gonna be fun. Plus, I mean, depending on how you do Saturday night, you might end up at saloon afterwards. So I think it is a lot of good times and whatnot. I've heard that's the baseball bar allegedly. But I think the chirping is going to be electric. I can't wait to hear it. I know, Gamecock Nation is going to, bring all of it and more. I'm so excited, Jack. I can't wait. And before we get into our predictions, I will say we still have Q&A coming up after this.
We will. Ask some good questions, please.
Yes, ask us some good questions. I've got some startups.
Baseball or not? Let's do
baseball, it. Preferably baseball related.
Preferably baseball, of course.
Yes, preferably baseball, but I mean, you can kind of ask us anything. Depending on what it is, we'll get to it. But all right, Jack, what is your series prediction for Florida?
All right. Flashback to last week.
I was gonna say you caught some flack for it.
Yeah. Y'all obviously did not like my pick. They call me a madman, but
Dave wasn't a fan.
I was right. I was right. Facts don't care about your feelings. It's just the way it is. But however, this is a new weekend. Start over, start fresh, clean slate. I think Friday, South Carolina's going to win. I think they're going to win in pretty convincing fashion to put all the what if there are haters out there about how this team played this past weekend, they'll put them to sleep on Friday. Saturday, I do think Florida bounces back with a win. Not in big fashion. I do think it's going to come down to the way the defense plays again. And I do think they'll make an error or two and kind of be costly. But Sunday, we'll see what happens. I think, drum roll please, I do think, to give the fans what they want, South Carolina will win this series 2 out of 3. I just think the home field advantage makes the difference, man. And I don't think Florida's pitching staff's that good. Now I know the Gamecocks are going to be without Noah Hall probably, and if they have him back, then it could sweep the series. But I don't think there's going to be a sweep in this type of series. But I do think you're going to. Don't you dare bring.
No, what was that? Sorry. Continue.
I think they'll be fine. I think they're gonna win 2 out of 3, and yeah, I mean, I hope y'all's confidence is restored in me. But I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think I'll be right this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And getting into my prediction, Jack, I like yours. I think realistically, they take 2. Potentially, they take 3.
This is Fowl Balls we're talking about.
I know this is Fowl Balls. But yeah, no, I have the broom because there is a really good potential for a sweep. I don't know. I feel it, and I'm going to get murdered on Twitter if I'm wrong. Not like if they end up losing the series, I'm going to get murdered for calling the sweep. But I feel it. And again, there's so much hatred towards Florida. And I think being back at Founders Park, it's home cooking. The baseball team is good again. And it's like everyone's excited. I think they take Friday. I think they take Saturday. And depending on how Sunday goes, again, there's potential for the sweep. And I really hope this brew makes an appearance on Dakota.
Yeah.
Florida sweeps. Yeah.
Now, do you bring the broom to the games though?
No, I doubt it. No.
Chat, let's see. Should he bring the broom to the game? Type 1 if you think yes.
Yeah. Founders Park Security is really, really good at their job. I know that or my friends know that from experience. I've not tried to do anything like that. But anyways, so that's our series predictions. Again, it's going to be a fun weekend regardless.
Yeah. Whatever happens,
it's going to be fun. I cannot wait to hear the chirps and everything. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. So transitioning into our Q&A segment, here it is. So starting from the top, Dave asks, who's my favorite player? It can't be Petri. And Jack, we'll go to you for this too. My favorite player, if I had to pick one, would be my guy, Evan Stone. Mike Trout Jr., as I've seen him called. I forget who calls him Mike Trout Jr., but yeah, Evan Stone's my guy. Good friend of the program, trying to get him on. We'll see if that happens, but that's my dude, favorite player. I'm glad he's hitting the ball well. I was so happy for him when he hit those 2 bombs and almost hit a walk-off. But yeah, Evan Stone is my guy. Jack, you?
Yeah, I think mine is just not the. I don't think it's really the popular pick because he's one of the new guys. It's more for like a personal reason and all that. My guy is probably Nick Proctor, reliever for the Gamecocks. I just remember when he committed to Carolina, I think last June, I reached out to him, wanted to do an interview with him, and reached back out to me and was a really cool dude, very down to earth kind of guy. And, we've kind of texted back and forth every now and then. And he's just a very funny kind of guy. He really hasn't talked in an interview yet for one of these post-game interviews, but hopefully that's soon and y'all can kind of see the kind of dude he is. But he's pitching well too, I think.
Yeah.
And he's been fine for the Gamecocks out of the bullpen. California dude. So pitching well on the East Coast. So yeah, that would probably be my guy, favorite player.
The kung fu fighting is hilarious.
Dude. So I
good.
remember he told me, I asked him he told me, he's a really weird kind of dude, wears like wristbands, going to do his own thing. But when he told me about kung fu fighting last June, I'm like, dude, that's a great song to pitch to. And I had waited to cover a game when he would pitch. And I saw he did kung fu fighting. I'm like, dude, I got to tweet this out. And
it's perfect.
It was like, dude, I think that's probably one of the best walk-up songs you can have.
Yeah. Oh, it's electric. It's so funny.
Dude, it gets you hyped.
It's hilarious. Yeah, definitely in the zone for sure. Wayne as moose, commonly Alice's commonly found in the woods and densely forested areas of the Northeast. Yes, that kind of moose. I heard again, sources were telling me there was a wild moose running around Nashville this weekend, and I would assume will be around Columbia somewhere. The woods behind Founders Park are very kind to the moose species. Carolina rundown question for the Q&A: what type of bird, pigeon, geese, goose, green, would hope would make the best baseball team? I'm gonna have a stupid answer here and say the Cardinal. I think the Cardinals are really good at baseball. So the Cardinals, Blue Jays, I don't know. Stupid answer, but I'm gonna go with that. Jack, what you think?
What a weird question, but I dig it. I'd have to go pigeons. I mean, in New York, I grew up in New York. Just you have pigeons everywhere, and they're kind of a real
New York.
pain in the butt. But yeah, I mean, if we're not going with the basic answers and stuff, I think pigeon would be cool.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see. For Q&A, if you were CEO and you were choosing from this team to run your business and why, also who would you not let run your business?
I think let run my business. I feel like Will Sanders is the kind of guy that could probably run the business. I think. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know what he majors in. But if I had to choose someone to not let run my business, probably Nick Proctor. Probably Nick Proctor. I feel like I know. I mean, the guy's awesome, but I don't know if I let him run my business, to be honest. So, but hopefully, maybe he'll prove me wrong.
Yeah, I agree. I like those two answers. Who would I let run my company? It's a tough one. I'm going to say Ethan Petrie, just because he seems like a very well-rounded individual. I think Caleb Denny's up there too. He seems very buttoned up, whatnot. And so would I not let run my business? Maybe the Moose, the wild man Moose. I think Wimmer's kind of a goofy dude, even though he would I feel like Wimmer could go both ways. He's with the haircut, he's been a little bit more buttoned up, and he's also kind of a captain of this team and whatnot. Evan Stone's a goofy dude.
I don't know if I let Stone run my business, dude. I don't know.
Yeah.
Him or Mahoney, I feel like I could not let them. I could not let them do it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, a lot of goofy dudes on this team, so it's quite fun. That's a good question. So moving on, Q&A. Who has more home runs this weekend, Ethan or Jack? Why is it going to be Evan Trout Jr. Stone? personally. Realistically, Jack Caglione is gonna have Evan Stone beat, but if we want to play the game, I think Trout Jr. has him beat for sure. That's my guy. Stone. I would love to see Evan Stone hit like 4 home runs this weekend. That would be amazing. That's my guy. But moving on with it looking like us versus Florida being the biggest series in baseball this season, do you think Gamecock Nation will show out, Jack?
Yeah, I think so. The question, with it looking like us, I do think Gamecock Nation will show out for sure. I do think they're going to be selling the place out every game, and I think it's going to make a difference. Like I said, I think it's really going to be impactful this weekend. I expect the crowd just to be on top of Florida. I know in the past it's definitely been that way. They kind of get riled easily, so I expect the same thing to happen this weekend.
Yeah, I agree. Again, the home field advantage, the home cooking, if you will. It's going to be really good. The chirps, can't wait to hear them, man. It's the best part. I love. It's one of my favorite things to do, just sitting back and laughing at all the chirps. It's quite fun. The heckling is part of it's part of Founders Park's identity. Like it or not, I think it's part of the identity of Founders Park and part of the reason why it's so good. Another one from Wayne, Joe and Jack. If you were on the mound and had one pitch to throw at Petri, what pitch are you throwing? Jack, I don't want to hear a high and tight fastball.
I was about to just say, I was about to say, I'd probably plunk him, to be honest.
I do not want to hear a high and tight fastball.
If I have to go one pitch, shoot, dude. I did not throw hard back then. Like, I know I said I probably hit a bomb or two, but like I could not throw hard to save my life. Now, one thing I probably would say, and he'd probably crush it, to be honest. Every now and then when I pitch, I threw like kind of like one of those like lollipop ephus pitches just to mess around and whatnot. I don't know. You throw like 45, 30 miles an hour. Maybe he just isn't caught up to it. So that's probably what I'd go with. Catch him off balance.
Yeah, I mean, high and tight would be and see, like, the problem with that, Jack, if you were to try to beat him, I mean, he hits anything, so I could see him just turning on that and putting it 400 feet.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'd probably try to throw a curveball and have it be so bad he's swinging in the dirt, or like try to lob something in there and just swing and try to get it, something like that.
Give him the Terminator, low key.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a tough one. Gamecocks. What am I cooking up for dinner all week? I went to Trader Joe's this week.
Good choice.
This weekend. I love. Yeah, shout out Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's, please sponsor me because my name is Joe and
friend of the channel. Sense.
I would love a Trader Joe's endorsement deal. That would be sick. I love Trader Joe's. It's the best. But yeah, no, I went to Trader Joe's, stocked up. My plug for this week, I guess you will, is their soup dumplings, bro. Unbelievable. Melting. They're so good. But I mean, this week I'm doing some pasta, like fettuccine alfredo. I've got I've been doing some Asian. I went Asian last night with the soup dumplings, some pot stickers, some lo mein kind of thing. And then I am doing some carne asada later this week for some friends. Some carne asada, dude. If you will. So yeah, some carne asada. I got some skirt steak. I'm gonna chef that up. It's gonna be pretty good. I can't wait to make that. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Obviously one of my favorite things to make. Carne asada, Mexican style carne asada, and then I'm gonna do the green salsa with it. I don't know. I'm rambling on about food. You asked me about food. You're gonna get a long answer.
I still gotta eat.
Yeah. Nathan Bacco, has Ethan Petri officially stolen your girlfriend, Jack?
Shout out my guy Baco, friend of mine. But yeah, so it's complicated, dude. It's complicated. He is Mr. Steel Girl at the end of the day. So, dude, if he hits like another pair of homers this weekend, I'm really, really down bad. So, but yeah, so we'll see.
Need that. And so next question from Justin: who can hit a baseball further, me or Jack? I'm guessing you, Jack, because I stopped playing baseball in 5th grade.
Now you can hit a golf ball farther than me.
Yeah.
I haven't even seen you play golf, and I know that. I can't. I can probably hit it from when on my first swing, it's not going to be good. I can't hit off the tee to save my life for some reason with a driver. I'll either hit it right or just it doesn't go far. But you give me like a 3 or like a 5. I mean, I might be able to hit it farther, but probably not. But baseball, I mean, I haven't played in a few years, but maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I love hitting the
Maybe
batting
still
cage.
pitch softball, but
Yeah, the
we'll
batting
see.
cages are always fun. I have one career home run in Little League in 5th grade, and
Hey, there you go.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, I don't know. It'd be tough. I mean, again, my golf game is elite.
Chef's
I,
kiss, baby.
yeah, and for some reason my golf game carries. Like Mike Yuva was talking about. He's like, I hear you're pretty good. I'm like, really? Like what? Like, he's like, yeah. He's like, people are talking about your golf game and stuff. I'm like, what do you like? Like, I'm okay. Like, I'm not. Like, I mean, we'll see how I shoot on Thursday. This will be the second time out this spring and whatnot. I've been going to the range and shit and whatever and crap and whatever, and so it'll be interesting. Wayne, again, if you could cook one meal at home, plate, what would it be? If I have like a portable grill, is hot dogs. It's kind of a weird question, but yeah, hot dogs, American classic. Yeah, hot dog.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. That and like a good burger, I feel like.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So one from Gamecock Dave. Joe, what is your favorite college ballpark? I've only been to 2 of them technically because I've been to, I mean, Notre Dame. I went as like a kid, but Founders Park between Notre Dame and South Carolina, because Notre Dame's baseball program needs funding and it's not great. I mean, nothing compared to Founders. Jack,
for me,
any others?
Favorite? I've been to some in South Carolina this year with covering games. I do want to get. Eventually, my goal is to get to one of these big ballparks, but who knows? But ballpark I've been to in the past. I didn't cover it. This is before I got to college and all that, but I did go to the Joe at Alabama, and I thought that place, with all the renovations they did, it looks really sick. Kind of similar to like Florida, I guess, like low key with the layout there. But I like the Joe at Alabama. Ballpark I do want to get to though would probably have to be Mississippi State's. What I forget what they call it. It's like the Dude or something like that. It looks really good environment. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you on that. Mississippi State would be the one that I would get to. Gamecocks, what kind of barbecue sauce do you 2 Yanks like with your Carolina barbecue? It's a tough one. I mean, Jack, what you think? I mean, you're a Fort Mill kid.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I mean, I eat barbecue like that. I don't know. I'm kind of like basic, I guess, with my sauces. I'm not the biggest fan of like a mustardy base. I don't know, maybe I prefer that over like a vinegary base kind of sauce, but
Yeah.
That's just me. But if I'm going with like I got like sauce in my fridge or something, I'll probably go with like a Sweet Baby Ray's maybe to kind of I don't know.
It's tough.
Don't judge.
Carolina barbecue sauce is okay. The mustard base, it's not bad. I'm not crapping on it by any means. It's okay. It's not my favorite thing in the world. I'd have to go with a more vinegary based sauce. That's just the way I've got it. I don't know. Carolina, like I said, Carolina barbecue sauce isn't horrible. The pork barbecue is also decent. Like I came down here expecting pork barbecue kind of, but no, I'm a big fan. I think the pork barbecue's solid. And then I mean, to Jack's point, Sweet Baby Ray is always good. Stubbs barbecue sauce.
Stubbs is good, dude.
Stubbs is gas.
Stubbs is so good.
I'm in a constant battle between Sweet Baby Ray's and Stubbs. Like I put Sweet Baby Ray's on ribs because that's how I was raised. Mm-hmm. That's how my aunts, uncles, everybody's done it. But Stubbs is making a comeback. I put Stubbs on all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it's interesting. And then let's see, we've got a couple more questions, and then
we will get to these questions.
We're gonna wrap it up. Jack, I heard before you can get to the Islanders game. I know they're playing right now, correct?
I heard someone, I think it was Baco probably texted me. I think it was 1-0 Canes right now. If y'all don't know, it's not a Browns jersey.
Yeah,
Whoever
it's not
said
a Browns
that,
jersey.
I don't know where y'all are getting that from, but it is a fisherman jersey for the Islanders. So
stand up and show the people.
Yeah, stand up, show the people.
Yeah,
their
sick jersey,
reverse retro or whatever it's called, and wearing the captain Anders Lee on the back. But
I was gonna say Notre Dame grad.
I'm sure a
I
bunch
love
of
Anders Lee.
But
Yeah.
Notre
Anders
Dame
Lee
guy.
played at Notre Dame. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. He played at Notre Dame when I worked for the hockey team, so I'm a big Anders Lee fan.
but yeah.
Dakota asks, "How does Jack eat a steak?" Depending on
Yeah. So it was. I think I'd probably go with medium rare.
yeah,
But I do like the higher temps too. I like it a little bit red, nothing too crazy, but yeah, probably medium rare. I would say.
good answer. Baco asks, "How you're doing tonight?"
I'm doing good, man.
Yeah,
I can't complain.
likewise.
I miss you, Baco, but
Pretty solid night.
yeah, he was my roommate in college. But yeah, man, I'm doing well. I'm happy to be on the show with Joe. I hope the Islanders aren't getting murdered when I get downstairs and eat dinner, but we'll see. I see it's 2-1 Canes apparently, so I'm gonna take you for your word.
Famously, Garnet asks, "What's your go-to food at the ballpark?" Jack, do you have your answer?
I'm gonna let you go first. I'm gonna let you go first.
I'm gonna say like sunflower seeds is like my go-to. Like you need a bag of seeds. And I mean, but regardless, I think in general, I think a hot dog and a beer works. Like I don't drink, but like it's hot dog and a beer. You can't really go wrong with it. It's ballpark tradition. But I think seeds, seeds, a hot dog, and a beverage goes a long way. Nachos is my slept-on take, though.
What is it?
Nachos.
Nachos are good, bro.
Yep.
I would say, I gotta get a good dog, dude.
Yeah.
But I'm from New York, like I said. So if you've ever been to Yankee Stadium, the new one especially, they got all this random food there. They got like sushi and like steak and stuff. I remember my brother and we went with a bunch of family last year. He got like a prime rib sandwich for like $26. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? But
Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, this is at the new Yankee Stadium. If you don't know, they also have a 99 burger.
The Wagyu.
All rise, yeah, the Wagyu for Aaron Judge. They only sell 99 of them per game.
Sorry,
I want to get out and try one, but yeah. Now, if I had to pick like a wacky food item to eat, I remember in high school, I used to do like a little column about different like ballpark foods and all that. And the Mariners, you're not gonna believe this, they had like crickets to eat. Crickets.
Yeah, I remember that.
Definitely strange.
Yeah, wacky ballpark foods like become a thing in the MLB, and I don't know how I feel about it, but it's interesting.
Top 3 foods I want to try at MLB stadiums: the churro dog in Arizona, the boomstick out in Texas, and oh Jesus, dude, I do want to try this 99 burger eventually at Yankee Stadium. So,
yeah, it's quite interesting. I don't know. The White Sox have something. I don't remember what exactly it was.
Yeah.
Luke asking, "Hey Jack, do you think the fielding struggles from the Vandy series are because of the turf, or does Kingston not put enough emphasis on fielding?" Which is actually a really good question.
That is a good question, LaPointe. Good question, buddy. I know earlier I said the turf. You can't necessarily blame the turf, but at the same time, you can. It does take like it moves quicker on the turf, I would say.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Kingston puts an emphasis on fielding. I feel like Monty Lee does as well, and Scott Wingo. So I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know what you blame on it. Honestly, I think it's just poor fielding. I just think, like I said earlier, you got to get in front of the ball. You have to, especially on turf. Like you can't be playing it to the side and expect to make a glove side play. But I don't know. It's a good question. Probably the best one tonight, but I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. And kind of we talked about it a little bit. I don't think we talked about it enough, but I think and I love getting a serious question this late in the game. I absolutely love it.
I love these other questions, but
it's perfect. Yeah,
the
point. This is a good question, and I'm glad you brought this up.
Yeah.
But like my take on the turf is like some guys are ready for it. Some guys like know how to play on turf, and some guys just haven't done it before. And so I think, obviously that's the problem with playing on the road. And I think that's why, the home cooking this week is going to be a lot better. Cause again, you're playing on your own field, you have room and foul ground to make a play. And like, I don't know. And I think, I don't know if it's necessarily King, but like the whole staff, I'm not trying to blame or not blame Kingston. And yes, Gamecocks, you've also asked good questions. These are all fun. But yeah, like a serious baseball question from the point is like, I think it's a little bit of both. You have to find a way to get over the fielding yips. And again, I talked about that a little bit earlier. It's like some of it's the yips, like it's baseball, it happens, but you also do have to put an emphasis on fielding. And it's just something it's gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I think it was a good question, and I think it's a decent question to close on. But everybody, thank you for watching. Those questions were fun at the end. I'm excited for next week. You guys, make our jobs fun. It's fun to get a little creative. The ballpark food was good. I saw somebody say chicken on a stick at Founders.
Good one.
That's the elite answer. But yeah, thank you everybody for watching. Hope you had as much fun as we did.
Hopefully Colin joins us next week.
I was gonna say we might have Colin Taylor back on with us next week.
Who is this guy? Where is he?
He was covering the Gamecock Gala. Must be nice to get all dressed up and go
to Nashville, and then you get to come back home. And then tomorrow he's bringing his dog. Come on.
He's Wrigley might be making an appearance tomorrow.
Mark at the park tomorrow, by the way.
Yes.
Bring your dogs. I can't bring my hound dogs, but bring your dogs.
Yes. Nothing better than the puppers. I know Ethan Petrie is going to be there, so that dog will be there. For sure. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. As always, might have CT on us, CT back with us next week. We'll see. But gonna shoot for Monday, possibly Wednesday. We'll see. But thank you guys for tuning in. As always, I'm Intern Joe. That's Jack Veltri. Thank you for tuning in to Fowl Balls. We'll see you next week.
Let's go.